It happened in the middle of a crowded hallway. A white boy's hand locked tight around a black girl's throat, pressing her against the lockers while dozens of students froze in place. Some gasped, some lifted their phones to record, but no one moved to stop it. That was the scene that would define Ariana Coleman's first week at Ridgewood High, the moment cruelty went unchecked. But what the bully didn't know was that the father of the girl he was choking was only steps away, and his arrival would turn humiliation into a lesson carved in front of the whole school. But that morning hadn't started with violence. It began with Ariana rushing to class. The bell rang and the halls of Ridgewood High exploded with sound. Lockers slammed like gunshots, sneakers squeaked on the linoleum, and voices bounced off the walls as students swarmed between classes. Among the crowd moved Ariana Coleman, 16 years old, her first week in this school. She walked with her backpack heavy on her shoulders, her hands full with binders, trying to stay focused, trying not to stand out. It was already hard enough being the new girl, and harder still being a black student in a place where whispers followed her every step. She stopped at her locker, carefully tucking her books inside, reminding herself to breathe. Just 1 week down, Ariana, she thought, you can get through this. But what she didn't know was that someone had already marked her. Chadwick, Chad Miller. Tall, broad, a senior, older than most from being held back. His father was a councilman in the city, and he wielded that name like a weapon. Teachers looked the other way when he strutted through the halls. He was used to control, to fear, to making examples out of anyone who didn't fit his narrow view of who belonged. And to him, Ariana was an easy target. Check her out, one of Chad's friends snickered, nudging him, walking around like she owns the place. Chad's lip curled into a sneer. She thinks she's better than us? Let's see how good she feels when she can't breathe. The laughter of his friends trailed behind him as he crossed the hall. Heavy boots thudded against the floor. Ariana didn't notice at first. She was too busy shuffling through her chemistry notes, trying to stay ahead. Then, bang! Her locker slammed shut inches from her hand. She jerked back, startled, her eyes darting up. Chad loomed over her, a grin stretched wide across his pale face. What's up, princess? He sneered. Too busy to say hi to the real king of this school? Ariana straightened her shoulders, though her stomach twisted. Move, Chad. I don't have time for your games. Oh, this isn't a game. His hand shot forward, slamming against the locker beside her head. Students nearby froze, some whispered, some fumbled with their phones. Nobody stepped in. You don't belong here, Chad hissed. Not unless I say so. Ariana stepped back, but there was nowhere to go. Chad's grin stretched wider, cruelty flashing in his eyes, and then, without warning, his hand shot forward. Not against the locker, not brushing past, straight for her throat. His pale fingers clamped down, cutting off her air in an instant. The metallic slam of the lockers seemed to echo louder as Ariana's back crashed against them. Her eyes widened, her mouth opening to scream. Nothing came out. Just a strangled rasp. Gasps exploded through the hallway. He's choking her, someone cried, their voice sharp with panic. Have you ever witnessed a moment so cruel that the whole room seemed to stop breathing too? What would you do if it was your child pinned and choked against those lockers? Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. And if you believe in standing up to bullies and racists, no matter where they show up, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc, because respect is always stronger than fear. Ariana's hands clawed at his arm, her nails digging, desperate, but Chad only sneered, his knuckles whitening as he pressed harder. Her binders tumbled from her hands, scattering papers across the floor like fallen feathers. The hallway, once roaring with noise, turned sickeningly still, except for the ugly sound of her shoes scuffing against the tiles as her legs kicked, searching for ground. Her face flushed deep red, then pale, her vision blurred at the edges, her body trembling as each breath slipped further away. Chad leaned closer, his breath hot in her ear. Not so tough now, huh? Say it. Say you're nothing. Students stood frozen. Some lifted their phones with trembling hands, recording. Others turned away, guilt in their eyes, too afraid to interfere. But no one moved, and Ariana's knees buckled. Her body sagged against the lockers, her strength draining fast. That was the moment when, down the hall, the sound of steady boots began to echo. The crowd parted instinctively. Heads turned. Whispers spread before anyone even saw his face. It was a black man in a pressed black suit, tall, broad-shouldered, his presence filling the space like a storm rolling in. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not in this moment, not in this chaos. But here he was, stepping into the circle of students, holding something small in his hand, a forgotten notebook. That morning, Ariana hadn't heard him calling when she rushed inside, so her father, Caleb Coleman, had followed, deciding to bring it to her himself. He had no idea he'd be walking into this. His eyes narrowed, his jaw set like stone as he took in the sight of his daughter pinned to the lockers, gasping under the hand of a sneering white boy. The hallway stilled, and then his voice rolled low, steady, but powerful enough to cut through every whisper. "Take your hands off my daughter." Chad froze for half a second at the sound of that voice. His grip loosened just slightly, enough for Ariana to drag in a ragged breath. Then he turned his head, eyes narrowing at the tall black man standing a few feet away. The laughter came quick, sharp, arrogant, meant to cover his flicker of fear. "Oh, look at this. What are you supposed to be? The janitor." "Yeah, figures, because I know that's the only job you can have." He sneered, his grip tightening on Ariana's throat. "Better stick to sweeping, old man, before you get hurt. This is between me and her." The hallway buzzed with gasps, phones angled higher, recording. Caleb Coleman didn't flinch. His voice came calm, steady, every word heavy as steel. "You've got 5 seconds to let go of my daughter. If you don't, I'll take your hands off her myself." Ariana's eyes widened. Relief shimmered through her panic, even as Chad barked another laugh. "Your daughter? Oh, this is too perfect." He yanked Ariana tighter against the locker, his face inches from hers. "What's she gonna do? Call Daddy to save her every time someone puts her in her place?" Caleb took a step forward. The students backed away instinctively, widening the circle. "This isn't a debate, son. This is your last warning." Chad's smirk faltered for a breath, but pride and the weight of the crowd shoved it back into place. He shoved Ariana against the lockers, hard enough to make her gasp before finally letting her stumble free. Then he squared up, rolling his shoulders, fists raised. "You don't scare me," he spat. "I'll drop you right here, in front of everybody. Then they'll see who's really in charge." Caleb tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. "Then you've already lost." The words hit harder than fists. The crowd hushed, phones locked on, the tension vibrating through the hall. Chad roared, pride snapping into rage. He lunged forward, swinging wild. Caleb's hand rose with effortless precision. Snap! He caught Chad's fist midair. Gasps ripped through the crowd. Before the boy could pull back, Caleb twisted sharply. Chad howled as his wrist bent the wrong way. His knees buckled, but Caleb didn't let go. He pivoted, his other arm driving an elbow into Chad's chest. The blow echoed like a drumbeat through the lockers. Chad crumpled, coughing, staggering to his knees. Caleb didn't raise his voice. He didn't gloat. He just stood over him, tall and steady, like a shadow that couldn't be shaken. "You thought choking a girl made you powerful," he said, low and clear enough for every phone mic to catch. "Now let me show you what real strength is." The hallway roared with whispers, some cheering, some stunned silent. Ariana, pressed back against the lockers, clutched her chest, her breath finally steadying, and Chad, red-faced, humiliated, gasping for air, tried to rise again. But Caleb was already there, waiting. Chad staggered to his feet, clutching his chest, face flushed with rage. Blood dripped from the corner of his lip, but his pride burned hotter than pain. "You think that was something?" he spat, his voice cracking under the weight of humiliation. "You got lucky. I'm not done." His friends shifted uneasily at the edge of the crowd. Some lowered their phones. Others whispered, "He should just stop. He's making it worse." But Chad, blind with arrogance, charged again. This time his fist cut wide through the air, aiming for Caleb's jaw. Caleb moved like water, slipping past the punch with calm precision. His hand shot forward, gripping the back of Chad's neck. In one fluid motion, he slammed the boy into the lockers with a thunderous clang. The sound ricocheted down the hallway. Students gasped, some even cheering. Caleb leaned close, his voice sharp enough to cut the silence. "Look at you. All that noise, all that hate, and nothing but weakness underneath it." Chad squirmed, gasping, pinned like a rag doll. "Get off me." Caleb's fist slammed into the locker just beside Chad's head, denting the metal with a sickening crunch. Chad flinched, paling, the arrogance draining from his face in an instant. "Apologize," Caleb growled. Chad's eyes darted to the phones, to the students watching, to Ariana standing free now, trembling but alive. His lips quivered. I'm sorry. Louder. I'm sorry." Chad's voice cracked, his humiliation pouring into the air. "I shouldn't have touched you. I was wrong." Caleb released him, letting Chad collapse onto the floor in a heap. The boy's hands shook as he struggled to crawl back, his pride shattered. Caleb turned, his broad shoulders shielding Ariana from the chaos of phones and eyes. He rested a protective arm across her shoulders, steady, unshaken. But before walking her out, he paused, turning back to the crowd and to the broken bully still crumpled against the lockers. "You think I'm a janitor?" Caleb's voice carried low but firm, every syllable clear. He reached into his jacket and pulled something out. A badge. The hallway went silent. "My name is Caleb Coleman. I'm the chief of police for this precinct." The revelation cracked through the air like thunder. Gasps rippled down the hall. Chad's face drained of all color. His father's influence meant nothing now. Caleb stepped closer, his gaze pinning the boy like a blade. "Let this be a lesson. Fear doesn't make you strong. Respect does. Learn it, or crawl through the rest of your life." Then Caleb guided Ariana down the hall, phones still recording. Chadwick Miller sat on the floor, broken, humiliated, his reputation destroyed in a single morning. If you believe every racist bully deserves to be exposed and humbled, then like this video and subscribe to Story Arc, because justice doesn't whisper in the dark, it roars where everyone can see. "Get your hand off that!" The woman snapped, her voice sharp enough to slice the air. Without warning, she yanked the bag off Tasha's lap like she was confiscating stolen property. The cabin went quiet. It wasn't the kind of silence that feels calm. It was the kind that feels tight, suspended, as if even the air didn't want to breathe wrong. Passengers paused mid-motion, half settled in their seats, now frozen with eyes darting toward row 14. Before we go any further, what city or country are you watching this from? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where you're tuning in from. And if you believe that no one should be judged by how they look, then go ahead and like this video and subscribe to Story Arc for stories that call out injustice every time.
Tasha was still, not because she was scared,
but because she was trying to understand how her evening flight home had just turned into a public accusation. She had boarded like everyone else, calm, quiet, carrying nothing but her travel bag and fatigue from a long workday. She wasn't in the mood to talk. She wasn't here to make waves. She had simply taken her seat beside a sleeping elderly man by the window, placed her bag carefully on her lap, and let her body sink into the cushion. She hadn't even looked up when the footsteps approached. But now that woman, blonde hair in a tight bun, uniform ironed like a pressboard, eyes sharp with judgment, was standing over her like she was already guilty. "Get your hand off that!" The woman barked again, still gripping the bag like she just uncovered a crime in progress. "She was asleep. You thought no one would notice you taking it." Tasha blinked. "What? That's my bag." The flight attendant scoffed and laughed under her breath. "Right, and I'm the Queen of England." Have you ever been spoken to like a criminal before anyone even asked your name? Drop your story in the comments. We want to hear it. What would you do if someone grabbed your personal belongings and told the world they weren't yours? Share your thoughts down below. Tasha straightened. "Excuse me, but I didn't touch that man's things. That bag has my wallet, my ID, my everything." "Oh, please." The woman spun the bag slowly in her hands, showing off the luxury logo on the side. "Do you have any idea how much this costs? This bag would wipe out 2 months of my rent. There's no way it's yours." "And why is that?" Tasha asked, voice calm but clear. "Because I'm black?" The woman raised a brow. "Oh, don't make it about that. I'm just saying it doesn't add up." She turned to the elderly man, still half asleep, and smiled politely. "Sir, don't worry. I stopped her just in time. She was trying to take your bag, but I caught it. You're safe now." Have you ever seen someone twist an entire situation just to make themselves feel powerful? What would you do if someone made a false claim in front of a crowd? Would you speak up or sit back? Tasha's mouth opened, stunned. The flight attendant was saying all this like it was fact, like no one needed to question it. The old man stirred slowly, eyes fluttering open. He blinked at the noise, looked at Tasha, then at the bag still hanging in the air. "What's going on?" he asked softly. "This woman," the flight attendant repeated, raising the handbag high for everyone to see. "She tried to steal your bag while you were asleep. But don't worry, I stopped it." The old man looked at Tasha, then at the bag, then back again. He opened his mouth. And that's where we'll leave it. The old man leaned forward slowly, blinking the sleep from his eyes. He looked at the flight attendant, then at the black handbag she was gripping like Tasha, who hadn't moved a muscle. He adjusted his glasses and said in a calm but steady voice, "No, that's not my bag." The flight attendant froze, just for a second. Her eyes shifted, first toward the bag, then back at him. "I am sorry, sir, are you sure?" she asked. "I just assumed." "I'm sure," he replied more firmly this time. "I travel light. My bag's up there in the overhead. I don't own anything like that." Gasps fluttered through the surrounding rows. One passenger even let out a soft, "Wow." Tasha raised her eyebrows. "Now can I have my bag back?" But the flight attendant didn't hand it over. In fact, she gripped it tighter. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered, half to herself. "You're telling me this is yours?" Tasha nodded. "Yes, I've told you that from the start." "Then prove it." "I shouldn't have to," Tasha said, keeping her voice calm despite the fire building in her chest. "You've already embarrassed me in front of this entire cabin, but if that's what it takes, open it. There's a wallet inside with my ID." The woman hesitated. Her fingers hovered near the zipper like it might bite her. "Have you ever had to prove something that was already yours, just because someone refused to believe you? What would you do if someone demanded proof after already calling you a liar? Drop your thoughts in the comments." She finally unzipped the bag and reached inside. Her hand brushed past lip balm, headphones, a passport holder, then wrapped around a leather wallet. She flipped it open. Front and center, a government ID. Tasha Miles. Clear photo. Current date. Matching face. The tension in the cabin was a physical thing now. You could feel passengers watching like they were part of the trial. The old man shook his head slightly, murmuring something under his breath. Tasha reached her hand out again. "We done here?" But the flight attendant didn't give up. Instead, she scoffed and said, "This proves nothing. You could have planted that wallet." Tasha's jaw clenched. "Planted it? You've got to be kidding me." "I'm not," the woman snapped. "I've seen tricks like this before. Your type always has some angle." Have you ever heard someone say something so bold, so offensive, you almost couldn't believe it came out of their mouth? Would you have kept your composure or gone off right there? Drop your reactions below. The old man finally spoke again. "Miss, she's told you. She's shown you. You owe her an apology." The flight attendant waved him off. "Sir, please. I've been working these flights for 15 years. I can smell a scam when I see one." "You're wrong," he said simply. Tasha leaned forward slightly. "If you think I'm scamming you, go ahead. Call someone, security, another attendant, whatever it takes, because I'm not going to keep letting you drag me through this just to protect your pride." But the woman wasn't ready to let go. "Oh, I will call someone. Don't worry." She turned and motioned toward the front of the cabin. "Mark," she called sharply. "Can you come here a moment?" A younger male flight attendant turned his head and started down the aisle. Tasha stayed seated, but her gaze didn't waver. This wasn't over yet. Mark reached their row quickly, scanning the tense scene. "Everything okay here?" he asked, eyes flicking from the elderly man to Tasha, then to the head flight attendant, still gripping Tasha's handbag like it was evidence. "No," the woman answered before anyone else could speak. "This passenger," she said, gesturing to Tasha, "was caught trying to steal a bag from this elderly man here. I intervened before anything was taken, but she's now claiming it's hers." Mark looked to the elderly man. "That's not true," the man said firmly. "She didn't take anything. That's her bag. I told her already. My belongings are overhead." Mark nodded slowly, then turned to Tasha. "Ma'am?" Tasha spoke clearly. "That's my bag. My ID's inside. She already checked it and still refuses to give it back." Mark raised a brow at the senior flight attendant. "You saw her ID?" She hesitated. "It could have been planted." Mark frowned. "Planted? She's lying," the woman insisted. "People like her always pull something. I know what I'm doing." Have you ever witnessed someone cling to a lie because they can't admit they were wrong? What would you do if someone kept doubling down after being proven wrong? Share it in the comments. Mark sighed, visibly uncomfortable. "We don't get to judge ownership by looks or income," he said. "You asked for ID. It matched. That should have ended it." Tasha sat still, arms crossed. Her breathing was steady now, but her eyes didn't blink. The woman wasn't done. "Well, since we're opening things," she said sharply, "let's see what else is in here. Let's just see how real this story is." "Do not go through my things," Tasha warned. The flight attendant ignored her, digging into the bag. Gasps echoed through the row again. From the front pouch, she pulled out a phone. "iPhone 16 Pro Max," she muttered. "Figures." Then deeper, her hand emerged holding something metal. It was sleek, bright, red and silver with the Ferrari logo gleaming like a mirror. The woman blinked, stunned for a beat. Then her expression twisted. Oh, please, she sneered, holding up the key. You want me to believe you own a Ferrari? Give me my bag, Tasha said, more firmly now. But the woman's voice grew louder. Come on, let's all be honest here. She's probably a 9 to 5 worker max. No way she's driving anything with a horse on the hood. Have you ever watched someone try to humiliate another person just because their own ego couldn't take being wrong? Would you have stood up right there or let her dig her own grave? Drop your reaction below. I think you've said enough, the elderly man spoke up again. You're insulting her and everyone else's intelligence. But she ignored him. She turned to Mark. She planted everything. This is a setup. She knows how to look rich. That doesn't make her innocent. Tasha stood now, calm, tall, grounded. You've gone too far, she said. You've insulted me, harassed me, searched my things without consent, and refused to back down even when the facts slapped you in the face. The woman scoffed. You think you're intimidating me? No, Tasha said. I think you're afraid of being wrong. That hit something. The flight attendant's eyes narrowed. Fine, she said coldly, grabbing the intercom phone from the wall. Let's call airport security then. Let them deal with you. She turned her back and began dialing. Passengers stared, phones were filming. The old man just shook his head in quiet disbelief. Tasha didn't flinch, because what was coming next would change everything. 2 officers boarded the plane moments later. One scanned the row, the other reviewed the report on his tablet. Passengers leaned in, sensing something big was about to happen. The flight attendant stood tall, ready to deliver her version. There, she said confidently, pointing directly at Tasha. That's her. She tried to steal from this man here. I've secured the bag. She's lying about everything. But the taller officer paused. He looked at Tasha, then looked again. Wait a minute. His eyes widened. Mrs. Miles, is that you? The cabin went still again. The racist flight attendant blinked, confused. Wait, you know her? Before the other officer could even glance up from the tablet, he said loud enough for the entire row to hear. Who doesn't know Mrs. Miles in this airline? She's the Chief Service Officer, CSO. She oversees all customer service across every route. The flight attendant's mouth fell open. But I didn't know. But you assumed, Tasha said, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. And now, you'll live with that. She stood slowly, eyes never leaving the woman's. I came on this flight without title, without staff, without any announcement, and you decided the kind of woman I was based on nothing but the color of my skin and the cost of my bag. The officer quietly motioned to his partner to step closer. Tasha didn't flinch. You didn't ask, you didn't investigate, you humiliated me. Even after I gave you ID, you searched my bag, called me a thief, and summoned the police like I was a threat. She stepped forward calmly. You saw me, but you didn't see me. And now, you're going to see consequences. Have you ever been treated like you were less just because someone else felt more? Would you press charges if someone violated your dignity that deeply? Drop your answer in the comments. The flight attendant's mouth kept opening and closing like she was trying to find the words, but couldn't. Tasha turned to the officers. Yes, I'm pressing charges. The taller officer nodded. Understood, ma'am. And right there in front of the passengers, the crew, and every recording phone, they cuffed her. The snap of the restraints echoed louder than anything she'd said all flight. No, wait, you can't, she sputtered as her wrists were pulled gently behind her back, but no one defended her. Mark, the younger attendant, stepped aside, silent. The old man watched solemnly, shaking his head once. The lead officer began walking her out. The other stayed with Tasha for a moment. We're sorry you had to deal with this, Mrs. Miles. We'll file a full report. Thank you, she replied. But I'll be filing my own as well. Have you ever seen justice come full circle? What message should this send to people who think their bias is law? Drop your thoughts below. The cabin was completely silent, except for the clicking of her heels as she was led off the plane. That silence, it wasn't awkward anymore. It was respect. The cabin was silent as the officers disappeared down the jet bridge with the cuffed flight attendant between them. No one clapped. No one cheered. The mood wasn't celebratory. It was reverent. Like everyone knew they'd just witnessed something deeper than drama. Something that peeled back layers most people avoid talking about. Tasha took a deep breath and turned toward the 2 people who'd stood by her when it counted most. First, she looked at the elderly man seated by the window. Thank you, she said, her voice sincere, for standing up, for speaking out when it would have been easier to stay quiet. He gave her a small smile and nodded. It was the right thing to do, he said. I just said what anyone decent should have said. Then she turned to the younger flight attendant, Mark. And thank you too. You could have stayed neutral. You didn't. That matters. Mark looked humbled. I just wanted to do the right thing, ma'am. Tasha nodded. Then she stepped slightly into the aisle and faced the rest of the cabin. Her voice carried, but it didn't need to be loud. It was the tone that made everyone listen. I want to say something to all of you, she began. What happened here today wasn't just about a bag. It was about perception, judgment, and power. Eyes watched her from every row. No one reached for a phone. They didn't need to. This wasn't a viral moment. It was a human one. It would have been easy to let this slide, she said, to take my seat, pretend it didn't happen. But what we let slide today becomes someone else's nightmare tomorrow. We're all responsible, not just for what we do, but what we let happen in front of us. Have you ever witnessed something wrong but weren't sure if you should speak up? What held you back or pushed you forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments. She paused, just long enough to let it sink in. Standing up for what's right doesn't require a title or a uniform or a badge. It just takes a choice. A few passengers nodded quietly. The old man looked at her with something close to pride. Tasha turned back to Mark. I meant what I said. You handled yourself with integrity, and I'm going to make sure it's recognized. I'll be recommending you for promotion to head flight attendant. Mark's eyes widened. Seriously? Seriously, she said, smiling. This airline needs more people like you. He beamed. Thank you, ma'am. That means a lot. Then she turned to the old man again. And you, she said warmly, you're not walking away empty-handed either. I'll personally see to it that you receive 2 first-class tickets. Any destination, anytime. The old man chuckled softly. That won't be necessary, dear. I didn't do it for a reward. I know, she said. That's why you deserve it. Finally, Tasha looked toward the front of the cabin. I'll be speaking with upper management when we land, she said. This isn't just about me. It's about what could have happened to anyone, black, white, rich, poor. This kind of profiling and abuse of power ends now. Have you ever been the victim or witness of discrimination in a place where people should feel safe? What should airlines, schools, and companies do to make it right? Drop your thoughts below. A few minutes later, the plane lifted off. Tasha sat back in her seat, hands folded in her lap. She wasn't just flying home, she was flying forward with a promise to keep. If you believe in accountability, fairness, and standing up when it matters, subscribe to Story Arc for stories that fight back. And tell us, have you ever stood up for someone or wished you had? Share your moment in the comments.